I want you to imagine that you are out at sea in an 8-meter-long high-speed rescue craft, much like the one depicted in this photo. You are with a small crew, 4 people total. This includes the coxswain on helm, steering the vessel, a crewmate on navigation, monitoring radar and GPS displays, and 2 crewmates on lookout, scanning the sea for potential hazards not detected by radar, such as logs. The sun has long been set, and the sky is completely black. The winds and seas are violent, with waves reaching nearly 10 feet in height. This is your first time out in heavy weather, and so you've been tasked as one of the individuals with lookout duties. However, you quickly come to realize that it is virtually impossible to see anything with the pitch black skies, the constant sea spray hammering you in the face, and the waves hurtling towards you from all directions, making your duties exceedingly difficult. The waves are so tall, they serve as a sort of mobile seawall, preventing you from seeing what is beyond the wall while simultaneously closing in on you. Furthermore, the violent seas throwing you and your crewmates around make it difficult to just keep your eyes focused, as you are, at seemingly random times, being thrown around in your seat with considerable force. Your crewmate on helm is doing their best to ride the waves, accelerating as the vessel moves up the wave, and decelerating as it moves past the crest, preventing the vessel from going airborne and launching into the next wave. However, due to the poor visibility, this task is also extremely difficult, and every little mistake is felt. As though the vessel suddenly starts to fall, then slam, it makes contact with the water again. The violent waves continually crash into you. The best you can do is keep your seatbelt secure, tightly hold on to the vessel, and every once in a while, wipe the salty seawater from your eyes. You must remain calm and, despite the adverse conditions, focus on your role of scanning the sea for hazards. This necessitates that you rely on your crewmates for your own personal safety, and vice versa. They must be able to rely on you to, despite all the stressors, focus on your role and do your part to ensure everyone's safe return to base. My name is Dolhan, and this was my experience during my first heavy weather training session with the Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue Organization in Victoria, British Columbia. Search and rescue has helped me in unexpected ways in both my personal and scientific pursuits. Some of the greatest lessons I have learned surround the idea of personal strength. Operating in restricted visibility and heavy weather is commonplace in search and rescue, as unfortunately for us, most of our calls do not come on sunny days with clear skies and calm weather. In such a potentially dangerous setting, you must be confident in your own skills and the current boundaries of your abilities. This includes training, fatigue, and emotional as well as physical resiliency. You cannot flounder or panic, as this leads to inaction. In fact, I once had a colleague give me a piece of advice which really resonated with me. He stated that if you're going to make a decision, commit to it. Of course, you can always change your mind or alter your course of action, but this can only be done after a decision has been made. Without confidently making a decision, progress is halted. However, it is not enough to just be confident in yourself, but you must also be confident with the capabilities of your teammates. For instance, you cannot be micromanaging what your crewmates on helm or on navigation are doing. as there's already so much for you to do and so much for you to focus on. Rather, you must be able to trust your crew. Part of this confidence comes from building a skilled and diverse team. In the aforementioned heavy weather scenario, we needed people to be experts in GPS, radar, steering the vessel in heavy weather, local geography, and the mechanical limitations of the vessel, and so on. One person cannot be an expert in all of these topics. Rather, it was paramount for our safe return home that we built a diverse team of individuals with a variety of strengths and weaknesses. When I first joined Search and Rescue, I felt very much like an outsider. I was the only neuroscientist on the team. I was one of the youngest crew members at 20 years old, and I was one of the smallest members. However, despite my small stature, I managed to make large contributions. I joined with no prior marine experience. I was born and raised in Alberta, landlocked and in the prairies, but I was eager to learn the nautical skills required to be at sea in crisis scenario. As a scientist, I am naturally curious, and given my studious nature, I learn material markedly fast. Thus, I quickly developed a reputation at the station for my ability to rapidly learn new information and acquire new skills. My colleagues often commented on how I was the only person guaranteed to have taken notes on the training manual prior to class, to show up to class early, and to take detailed, even color-coded notes on the classroom sessions. This paid off, as I quickly progressed in my training, graduating from classroom sessions to training out on the water. I started to realize that some of those qualities which initially made me feel like an outcast were actually serving as unique strengths. After volunteering with the unit for a couple of months, I proposed an idea to the training officer, who was in charge of developing the search and rescue curriculum and putting together weekly training sessions. I wanted to develop a lesson on neuroscience at sea. Despite the seeming unrelatedness between neuroscience and marine search and rescue, I had made many connections between what I was learning in university and what we were doing out on the water. This was a vast departure from any of the existing search and rescue lessons, but the training officer was supportive and gave me an enthusiastic green light. So I went on to develop a lesson on the neuroscience of attention, learning, and decision-making relevant to first responders. To my surprise, not only was our station interested in receiving the training, but our neighboring station in Oak Bay also wanted to be present for my lesson. One of the topics covered included common heuristics in human decision-making. For example, the psychological phenomenon known as the framing effect and how this could affect us out on the water. I gave a hypothetical first aid scenario. When I framed things in terms of lives lost, the group tended to make more conservative choices. However, when I framed an equivalent medical scenario in terms of lives rescued, they tend to make more risky decisions. The same number of people were rescued between the two scenarios. The only difference was whether I emphasized those lost or those rescued. Thus, I suggested that we be careful to frame things using different perspectives when making decisions in emergency situations. Sure, it will take a few extra seconds, but it is well worth the time to make more logically consistent and well thought out decisions. Everyone was extremely receptive to the lesson, with people from various backgrounds making connections to their own personal experiences. The training officer even stated that they thought it was the best lesson to ever be delivered to the station. I was elated. I was able to turn my unique qualities into something of value for the station and for my team. Shortly thereafter, at our annual general meeting, whereby new officers are elected to serve yearly terms, I was nominated by the station to serve as our new training officer. Critical to my progression, however, were the lessons I learned through interacting with teammates who had very different expertise and life experiences than I. I was working with people twice my size, my age, and from a Navy background, for example. I have one particular individual in mind who could throw a life wing further and more accurately than I, and was more skilled in tight quarters, slow boat handling. Our team worked, despite our differences, because we learned to trust each other. Rather than being intimidated by our divergent history and knowledge, we respected each other and the unique perspectives that we brought to the team. Furthermore, we pushed each other outside of our comfort zones. For example, during training sessions, I taught him about the mechanisms of rapid and intuitive versus slow and methodological decision-making, while he, in turn, took the time to help me improve my own tight quarters, slow boat handling. Thus, in understanding our own strengths and that of our crewmates, we were able to facilitate personal growth. We exchanged information and leveraged our differences, thereby strengthening each other and, in turn, our entire team. This diversity has expressed itself in unexpected ways as well. For example, I was the only one to ever show up to Marine search and rescue meetings in high heels, jewelry, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, a bedazzled face mask. In the past, women were prohibited from being on nautical vessels, as we were seen as a source of bad luck. So, for those members who came from a more traditional nautical background, I imagine that my presence was somewhat of a culture shock. However, they refrained from judgment as they saw the unique qualities that I brought to the team. Being a woman in science and in search and rescue, I am used to working in fields which have historically been male-dominated. My experiences have taught me that I can not only exist, but I can also excel in spaces where women were not able to exist previously. A little over a year ago, I moved to Montreal and began land-based urban and rural search and rescue with the Pointe Claire Volunteer Rescue Unit. Outside of my volunteer activities, I am a graduate student in cognitive computational neuroscience, studying consciousness. Specifically, I collect and analyze brain data from patients with coma or disorders of consciousness in the intensive care unit. Not only has neuroscience helped me in search and rescue, but my experiences in search and rescue have helped me to become a better scientist. For example, by equipping me with the skills to stay calm during data collection in the intensive care unit. Furthermore, it has taught me how to earnestly trust my colleagues, as I am confident in their capabilities when we collect data in the ICU, when we analyze data in the laboratory, or when we write a scientific paper together. More generally, search and rescue has taught me how to make confident decisions, how to stay calm under extreme pressure, how to work effectively as part of a team, and it has taught me the value of direct, closed-loop communication. My experience in search and rescue has shown me that personal strength involves knowing when and how to rely on others. It consists of being confident both in yourself and in your teammates, be it a team of first responders, scientists, or your personal team of friends and loved ones who help support you through your everyday endeavors. Genuine strength does not hinge on one's ability to strictly rely on oneself. Rather, it comes from an understanding of oneself and one's team, of the unique qualities that each person brings to the table. There is great value in constructing diverse teams. And if these teams are built upon a foundation of mutual respect and trust, then this diversity can be leveraged to everyone's advantage, making the team better equipped than any one individual to handle everyday scenarios or crises. In summary, I encourage you to embrace the qualities which make you and others unique. These qualities can quite literally save lives.